Welcome back, folks. This is Peter Smaniak, and we're in part 3 of session 1. In this part, we're going to be looking at serum and urine profiling. We're also going to be touching briefly on DNA testing. Now, what is important with serum and urine profiling is that these tests are used at a point in time in order to obtain only a snapshot of your inner health and where it could be heading. So over time, when one is using this form of profiling, you're able to determine a trend and which way your health could be potentially going. Now, too often people fall victim to a disease that could have been prevented if their blood had been tested at least once a year. For instance, we know that prescription drugs can cause liver and kidney problems, but other factors such as alcohol, over-the-counter drugs, excess niacin, hepatitis C, these can make a person susceptible to liver or kidney damage. These conditions often smolder for years until a life-threatening medical crisis occurs. Because of a phenomenon known as individual variability, some people are especially vulnerable to liver and kidney damage. Now, the good news is that a simple blood chemistry test can detect an underlying problem in time to take the corrective actions. When physicians review your blood results, and we're speaking on the average, their primary concern is any result that falls outside the normal lab reference range could be a problem. The problem is that the standard reference ranges usually represent the average population rather than the optimal level required to maintain good health. It now appears that most standard reference ranges are too broad to adequately detect health problems or prescribe the appropriate therapy on an individual basis. This is especially true when these reference ranges are relied on to treat a serious medical disorder. Now, as we said right in the beginning, we were speaking about identifying these risks. In our previous session, we looked at inflammation. We were speaking about how inflammation is the base rock to so many conditions. What is the test that we can use to actually see if there's inflammation flaring up in our bodies? That test is called the ultrasensitive C-reactive protein. Now, the C-reactive protein level does not provide specifics about the inflammatory process going on in the body, meaning the location of the inflammation, but it has been linked to a number of diseases, including the narrowing of blood vessels. So now, understanding your test results, the CRP test does not test for any particular disease or condition. It will tell you, however, that there's a potential risk which would lead to heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, if unnoticed, untreated, and ignored. A CRP test will tell you whether you have an excessive level of what they call systemic inflammation. Now, remember we spoke earlier, and you have acute inflammation when there's injury, and you have systemic inflammation. This is that smoldering inflammation in the system that just continues to grow. Now, your CRP level also indicates your risk of various other diseases. So CRP, when you look at the CRP measurement in your blood panel, and you could even do this, but what we've done is we've been able to take the CRP test results, throw them into a risk model and say, with this reading, these are your potential consequences for future disease. So in this example, we're showing that CRP, if it's high or severely high, it's a red flag for what? Well, for predicting cardiovascular disease. Now, if you know that already and you're not worried about cardiovascular disease, then you can carry on doing what you're doing. But if you don't want to end up with cardiovascular disease, and it doesn't happen tomorrow or the next week, it happens over time as this inflammatory reactions and responses in the body smolder for years. But what you want to know, and the information you need, is that do I have chronic inflammation in my body? Because if I do, it also increases not only cardiovascular risk disease, diabetes risk. What would normally happen with this kind of marker is that a medical practitioner would suggest that you go on what they call anti-inflammatories. Now, I'm sure many have been on these things, whether you have a headache, which you normally take a painkiller, but in many instances, people are also taking anti-inflammatories for muscle strain, sore neck, sore back, and so on. But what does that anti-inflammatory do? So we've had a look at this and we say, okay, so what is the risk of taking this kind of anti-inflammatory? And folks, straight away, that anti-inflammatory is highly acidic in your gut and in your system. You would like to stay away from it. If it's an acute problem, maybe you can take it for a short period and then move on. But so many times people are living on anti-inflammatories and pain medication. So if there's diabetes that is already shown up, and there's heart disease that's already busy smoldering, what can you do about all these things? Well, we suggest rather reduces inflammation naturally by changing what is eaten. Because what has happened is you've got to this place by following a certain habit. Now what you need to do is just change that habit. And can you change it? Yes, without a doubt. They say 21 days. We have found that it's better to do it over about 42 days. And that changes. But there's no rush. We get in, we do it slowly. And we're going to show you and guide you slowly on how to do that. So that is the serum profiles. Now, there's a number of tests one can test, not only for inflammation, but for nutritional deficiencies, cardiovascular risk, cancer risk, the working of your thyroid. There's a number of panels that one can do. And that is not for this course, but what is for this course is to be able to understand that there are tools available for you to determine future predictors to gut health. The first test we look at is food allergy, and we're not going into too much detail about food allergy because if there is a food allergy, you will know all about it. Food allergies are immediate reactions that can lead to death in some instances. What is a food allergy? Well, when you have a look at it, there are a number of factors that can affect an individual. Pollution, viruses, fungi, bacteria, parasites, toxins. And in instances where you're eating maybe a average food, a normal food for society, may not be healthy, but it's a normal food, even a healthy food, is that the body sees it as a threatening substance and it goes into a place where it protects itself from this allergy that it's recognizing. Now that is just the way you've been wired, or in some instances you've eaten too much of it, or in other instances it's just what's happening inside of your system. What are the common allergens? Milk, eggs, peanuts, tree nuts, fish, shellfish, soy. And we know these are the common allergens that can cause havoc with the body if eaten. So folks, be aware of this, be careful of this, because these things show up very quickly. Now, food intolerance, these tests, and this is what we're suggesting in many instances as a first go-to to determine where I am right now, what am I still doing that could be aggravating my gut health. So these tests use specific what they call IgG4 concentrations. And what's important here is that a food allergy, there's an immediate reaction where food intolerance is a delayed reaction. I mean, those are the two most important things around this right now. But what do we need to know about food intolerances? Well, when you've got a food intolerance and you're continually eating that food that you don't know or you may suspect, but you're continually eating it, this is what could be happening in your body. Nutrient absorption problems. What does that mean? Now imagine you're not eating nutrient-dense foods, and the bit of nutrients you're getting from the foods you're eating are not being absorbed. You can actually be, although you can be eating a lot of food, you can be malnourished when it comes to actual proper nutrient efficiencies. Decreased oxygen to the gut, 4 times less blood flow to your digestive system. So how are we going to digest that food properly? Bloating, discomfort, pain, decreased metabolism, gaining weight, decreased enzymatic output. So your body, from the time you put the food in your mouth right through, your body is not producing those enzymes to be able to digest that food. And that food is going through your system or leaking into your bloodstream. It's not getting digested properly. Alterations in gastrointestinal motility, increase in visceral perception. So now the organs are starting to protect themselves with this fat layer around them. First they're inflaming and then they're protecting themselves. What about changes in gastrointestinal secretion? Our body needs all these things to be happening to be able to have an optimal gut. So first stage is test what foods you're eating right now that is impacting on you. And folks, we'll be able to guide you on that into the future. You're welcome to touch base with us on all these things. Negative effects on regenerative capacity of the gut. So what is that? That is, your gut is not it's not having the ability to restore what is being broken down. When you're breaking something down slowly over time, it's very difficult to rebuild it. If it happens overnight and it can rebuild because it's got the immune responses to do so, that's a different aspect. So how many foods do you want to test? 20, 270? They can test up to over 270. So, but what they do is they take our normal foods and they just break them down in so many different levels. But right now, what do you want to test? Eggs, gluten, wheat, rye, gluten grains, gluten-free grains, yeast, milk, casein, soya beans, nuts, a various number of nuts. Because some people might have an intolerance to a peanut or an allergy to a peanut, but can be eat an almond and a hazel, or vice versa. Fruits, pineapple, kiwi, banana. Same with fish and meat. Some fish you can eat, some fish you can't. What does that intolerance mean? The intolerance means stay away from that food for a while. Now, when you get your intolerance report back, they will say you need a rotation plan. They haven't eliminated the food. I'm not in total agreement with that. I would say eliminate that food. That food is not vital for your body. Allow your body to repair in totality, and thereafter, once it's repaired, introduce and see what happens in your body. Now, what we've done, so many individuals are intolerant and or allergic to egg. But let's take that a little bit further. If you're intolerant to egg and or if you're not, have a look at this risk process that we've put in place for you. If you're consuming 2 eggs per day, now years gone by I was consuming a dozen eggs per day, and in some instances more. Now what is that? Is if I look and say I'm consuming 2 eggs a day, is that a risk? Well, no one will look at it at that way. But if I show you how this progresses and what the impact is on our system, you may look at it a little bit differently. So consuming 2 eggs per day, what's the increase risk? Increased cancer risk. They say consuming 2.5 eggs per week may increase the risk for deadly form of prostate cancer by 81% versus only a half an egg per week. So your probability is increased by 81%. That's high, folks. People who consume just 1.5 eggs per week had nearly 5 times the risk for colon cancer. Colon cancer is the fastest growing cancer in the world today. 2 eggs daily will mean a 6% increase in cholesterol and a 12% more heart disease over the next 5 to 10 years. What about the second impact? Well, they say high egg consumption increases the risk for diabetes by 68%. Also increases the risk of gestational diabetes, and diabetics increase the risk for developing heart disease by 83% with an increased egg consumption. Now, if I'm a diabetic, I would be very wary to go on a Banting eating plan or a keto eating plan that advocates this high-fat egg consumption. what is the third thing? So if we've increased that risk, now we're eating these eggs and we've increased heart disease. So research published in 2013 has shown that a byproduct of choline, coming from the yolk, a component that is particularly high in eggs, increases one's risk for a heart attack, stroke, and death. Researchers found that people who consumed the most eggs increased their risk for cardiovascular disease by 19%. That's high, folks. That is very high. So just looking at this, do I decrease my egg consumption? Do I continue if I'm eating a high number of eggs per week? What do I do? The choice is yours. When you're looking at it from this angle, I'm saying if one is focused on longevity and quality of health, one would be very wary about these statistics that come through. What about DNA testing? DNA testing is observing our own wiring. A person's genes determine everything about them, from their eye color to the risk for certain diseases, and personalized medicine is now giving doctors and practitioners the tools to highlight an individual's genetic makeup. So what doctors can use is now doctors, dietitians, nutritionists, advisors, practitioners can use the DNA testing only if they understand how to interpret this report in an holistic way for your nutrition plan. So to translate DNA results, it's vital that you're looking at an accredited provider. And we have that. We have where people have already been to a provider, they've had one consultation, which is insufficient to be able to get all that data and bring it into an holistic plan. So folks, be careful on that. But if you want to do it, you're also welcome to be in touch with us. We can refer you or we can assist you. So now, folks, we're coming up to the end of part 3 of session 1. What is our challenge for the next 7 days? And this is totally optional. Lower animal product consumption. I would suggest 50% at least over the next 7 days. Fruits and vegetables, double up on your fruits and vegetables. Remember, eat fruit on its own and vegetables together. Do not try not mix your vegetables, your sweet potatoes with an animal product. In so many instances that's doing it because we've got 2 different forms of enzymes being secreted in the body at one time. If I was you and you got serious gut health issues, I would do what they call mono eating. I'd only eat a specific fruit or a specific vegetable or a specific animal product on its own. For one morning a week, juice carrots, celery, ginger. For another morning, eat only watermelon. And on another morning, eat only grapefruit or grapes. And eat as much as you choose of each. Reduce your sugar intake by 50%. Sugar is called the new white death. Oils, reduce oils. Use only olive and coconut oil. Olive oil, use it over your salads and your foods. Do not cook with it. Coconut oil, you're welcome to cook with it. And use an organic brand. Cold-pressed organic coconut oil. And then for one day, and Mondays is normally a good day for this. From the day before on a Sunday, 6 o'clock, eat your last meal. Don't overeat. Just eat a normal meal. Until 12 o'clock the next day, only drink water. But focus not on the food that you're not getting in. Focus on how your body's responding. And I'm sure with these 6 tips, 6 challenges, which is not difficult, folks, you can easily do them. You're going to be feeling very different after 7 days. That brings us to the end of session 1. And we would love to hear from you. Get in touch with us. Write to us. Post on our Facebook, Instagram accounts. And we will respond where we can through our Q&As. Until we meet online again, folks, you take care. This is Peter Smaniak signing off.